It's one of the most iconic images in all of history, right? Jesus of Nazareth, surrounded by his 12 disciples. We've seen it everywhere our whole lives. But behind that familiar picture, there's a really deep question, a deliberate choice that literally changed the world. So why 12? Why that exact number? Was it just random, a lucky number? Or was something else going on? Was it a message? A powerful statement that everyone back then would have understood instantly, but that we often miss today? That number, 12, that's the key to the whole thing. This wasn't just about getting a dozen guys to follow him around. For the Jewish people, the number 12 was absolutely loaded with history and hope. Choosing it was a huge symbolic move. And here's the big idea. By choosing 12 men, Jesus was creating what you could call a living parable. He was sending a message loud and clear. He was saying, I am forming a new Israel. He was signaling that the long-awaited restoration of God's people, all 12 scattered tribes, was finally happening, not with an army, but with this small group of guys. Okay, so let's really dig into this idea of a living parable, because the choice to pick 12 apostles was so much more than a head count. It was meant to echo through centuries of Jewish history and all their future hopes. So this is where the past meets the future. For any Jew in the first century, the number 12 would have been like a giant flashing sign. It immediately pointed back to the 12 sons of Jacob, the guys who founded the original 12 tribes of Israel. Now, 10 of those tribes were considered lost to history by this point, but there was this burning hope that one day they'd be gathered back together. So by picking 12 men, Jesus was basically appointing new patriarchs, new founding fathers for this restored nation. He was creating a new leadership for the people of God. But this is where it gets really fascinating. It wasn't just about the symbolism of the number. It was about the men themselves. I mean, what a crew. He didn't pick a team that would naturally get along. No, he built a group that was a perfect snapshot of all the conflicts he came to heal. I mean, just look at the tension baked into this group. On one side, you have Simon the Zealot. The Zealots were hardcore Jewish nationalists. They believed in violent rebellion against the Roman occupiers. And to a zealot, a tax collector, well, a tax collector was the ultimate traitor, a sellout who deserved to be killed. And then, on the other side, you have Matthew, a tax collector, a guy who worked for Rome collecting taxes from his own people. He was a social outcast, seen as a total traitor. Seriously, in any other situation, Simon might have literally tried to kill Matthew. They were mortal enemies. But in this group, Jesus called them to be brothers. Their ability to even be in the same room, let alone work together, wasn't an accident. It was the whole point. It was a living demonstration that the community Jesus was building had a power that could overcome even the most bitter, violent hatreds in the world. So he's put together this impossible team. But that was just the beginning. After teaching them, he didn't wrap them in cotton wool. Instead, he sent them out on a mission. A commissioning that was, frankly, as terrifying as it was radical. Just think about that image for a second. Sheep among wolves. That's a picture of complete and total vulnerability. He wasn't sending them out as conquerors or lions. He was flat out telling them that the world was going to react violently to their message. And the instructions he gave them were just insane. No money, nothing. No bag for your journey, not even an extra shirt or a spare pair of sandals. They were told to be completely 100% dependent on the kindness of strangers. The whole point was to force them to trust that the message itself was enough, that it would provide everything they needed. And then he drops this bombshell. He's not here to bring some easy, feel-good peace. The sword he's talking about, that's division. He knew that his message would demand a choice, a total allegiance, and that choice would draw a line in the sand, even through families. It was a call to a loyalty that was higher than any other bond on earth. So, what happened to these guys? What became of this small band sent out like sheep among wolves? Well, their story doesn't end with them retiring peacefully. Their legacy was ultimately written in blood. After Judas Iscariot's betrayal, there were 11 of the original apostles left. And here's the staggering thing. According to centuries of church tradition, all 11 of them would go on to be martyred for what they preached, every single one. And the accounts of their deaths are just brutal. Tradition tells us that Peter, feeling he wasn't worthy to die in the same way as Jesus, was crucified upside down in Rome. Bartholomew was reportedly flayed alive in Armenia. And Thomas, the one we call Doubting Thomas, is said to have traveled as far as India, where he was martyred with a spear. There's this famous quote from an early church father, Tertullian, that just nails it. The blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church. Their absolute commitment, even to the point of a horrifying death, didn't stop the movement. It did the opposite. Their sacrifice became the very thing that caused the early church to grow and spread like wildfire. And this gets to the core of why their story is so powerful. Look, people will die for something they believe is true, even if they're mistaken. But it's almost unheard of for people to willingly suffer and die for something they know is a lie. The fact that these men were willing to be tortured and executed for one specific claim, that they had seen Jesus Christ alive after he was crucified, that is a powerful argument that they, at least, were absolutely convinced it was true. Which leaves us with this incredible final question. How does a conflicted group of fishermen, outcasts, and political radicals, sent out with nothing but a controversial message, become the foundation for a faith that now has billions of followers? Their story seems to suggest that the answer isn't really about who they were, but about the power of the message they were willing to die for.